Welcome to the Craftsmen Online Podcast, the only 5-star rated Masonic podcast endorsed by the Grand Lodge of New York. Any opinions, thoughts, or viewpoints shared during this program are that of the individual and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, appendant, or concordant body from which that member may hail. I'm your host, Brother Michael Arce, co-founder of CraftsmenOnline.com, and you've joined us for a very special episode as we prepare to take a Masonic guided meditation to an 18th century lodge of the Egyptian Rite of Freemasonry in London, England. Now, for your safety, we recommend that you do not listen to this episode while driving or engaging in any sort of physical activity. Before we begin, I would like to thank Brother Angel Millar, our special guest for this episode, for his generous donation of time and talent in the research, writing, and of course, performing of this meditation. Brother Millar is a professional consulting hypnotist and personal growth mentor with more than 2 decades of experience in meditation and related mindfulness training techniques. I urge you to consider visiting his website, angelmillar.com. That's angelmillar.com to read his fascinating blog articles, order one of his compelling books. I am a big fan of The Path of the Warrior Mystic myself. You can learn about his hypnosis and mentoring service or simply just get in touch. Last year, after a few personal hypnosis and meditation sessions, I was ecstatic when Brother Millar agreed to sign on to the idea of recording a meditation journey that we could share with you, our listener. In a few moments, our presentation will begin, I promise. And with that said, you'll hear the cue of singing bowls at the beginning and the end of the meditation so that you have time to prepare your space and mind to enjoy the special journey. And now, Craftsmen Online is proud to present our first Masonic guided meditation featuring Brother Angel Millar.
Okay, so we are going to take a trip back to 18th century London, and we are going to visit a lodge of the Egyptian Rite of Freemasonry in that city. And for now, you can just get comfortable in your chair, or if you're laying down, you can just get comfortable. If you need to stretch, feel free, go ahead and do that. And once you're comfortable, you can just begin to focus on your breath. Just pay attention to your breathing. Just allow your body to relax. Just allow your body to relax as you're laying or sitting there. And you can begin to allow the top of your head to relax, your forehead, the sides of your head, all around your eyes, your jaw. Just allow your head and your face to relax. And your shoulders. Just allow your head, your face, your shoulders to relax as you breathe in and out. In and out. Just allow your body to relax. And you don't have to try to relax. You can just allow your body to relax of its own accord as you listen to my voice, as we're about to take that trip back through time to 18th century London. Now that you're already relaxing, we're going to go ahead and just visualize ourselves sort of floating up out of our chair or out of our bed or wherever you may be relaxing, just go ahead and see yourself. Just visualize yourself floating upwards to the ceiling above you, floating upwards through the roof, into the air above the roof, into the sky, and maybe you notice the world below you getting smaller and smaller as you feel that sensation of floating in the air, higher, floating in the air into the clouds. And you notice now how the air is becoming thick and white with clouds. All around you, just thick white cloud as you keep ascending into denser and denser cloud. Now, just allow yourself to begin to float back down. Just feel yourself floating down through the clouds, down through the clouds, down through the clouds in the sky. And when you look below, you may begin to notice that the landscape is different. There may be more green. You may notice that the city, as it comes into view, is looking a little more old-fashioned. And you continue to float down, as the buildings seem to grow larger and larger below. In a moment, in a few seconds, you will land your feet on the streets below, the cobbled streets as they come into view, going down. 3, 2, 1. Your feet are firmly planted on the cobbled streets of the 18th century below you. And as you look around, you notice the buildings, the people. The streets are quite busy. It's dusk, and the sun is setting. The sky is turning orange, and the clouds are red. And all around you, some of them walking past you, some towards you, you see men wearing tricorn hats, long coats, richly embroidered, with waistcoats and frilly shirts and breeches and silk stockings up to their knees, and women dressed in the fashionable mantua dress, which reaches to the ankles and flares out of the hips like a kind of bell shape, wearing a corset with a jacket. And again, some of them are richly embroidered, others woven with various patterns of flowers and leaves and damask. And the people are rushing along the streets, some past you, some towards you, as the sun is setting. And you yourself will begin to walk along the street, just noticing the buildings. Some of them are still in Tudor style. And the shops and taverns have signs outside that are swinging gently in the breeze. In the distance, you can just make out the River Thames, turning orange beneath the sun. And you hear the sound of horses as carriages are passing you by. And you stop for a moment to just take in the view, perhaps to look at the River Thames, to look at the sunset, to see the buildings bathed in that orange glow of the sunset. And as you do, you hear a man behind you calling to you. And as you look around, you see a horse and carriage with a driver wearing a long dark coat and dark top hat. He is gesturing towards the carriage door. The horses, their heads are bobbing up and down. They may be neighing. And the driver is telling you that you are late for the meeting. Late for the meeting. You walk towards the carriage, put your hand on the door and pull it open and climb inside. And close the door behind you and look out to the streets. The driver urges the horses on and the carriage takes off. You can hear the sounds of the horses drawing the carriage through the cobbled streets. And outside you can see people and houses and buildings, taverns and shops passing you by, and the streets are winding left and right, and the carriage is moving faster and faster. And outside may even begin to seem like a blur as you pass those people and buildings and travel along the streets. And in a few seconds you will arrive at your destination. On the countdown of 3, 2, 1. You pull up outside a tavern. You can already hear the noise of the crowd inside, drinking and laughing and talking. All of the chatter, just a noise, barely indistinguishable, that you can already perhaps make out 1 or 2 words: lodge, master mason. You open the door and climb down out of the carriage and walk towards the door where you see a man nodding. He ushers you inside, and inside you can see a room full of people drinking and talking and laughing. And the man at the door gestures towards some stairs away from the crowd that will lead you 1 floor up. And you put 1 foot on the first step and then take another step and begin to climb the stairs. You can put your hand on the banister to steady yourself. Perhaps you look back at the crowd below as you climb the stairs. 1 floor up. You continue to climbing those stairs. And on the count of 3, you will have reached the top. 3, 2, 1. And before you now stretches a long hallway with several doors either side of the hall. And you can hear the clinking of glasses coming from one of the rooms, and some chatter, as if there is a small crowd of people talking and having a good time. Outside the door is a slender, middle-aged man, splendidly attired in a long embroidered yellow coat with blue breeches. And he is sitting, and the sword is resting on his lap. As you approach, As you walk along the hall towards him, he grows nearer to you. The gentleman stands, takes his sword in his left hand and extends his right towards you. Gripping your hand firmly, you can feel his hand a little soft and a little clammy. And he ushers you into the room next to him. And as you enter, you are immediately struck by several long hangings of cloth banners on the walls, each with a different Masonic emblem. A sun on one, a hammer and chisel on another, a square and compasses on a third. And inside the room, ladies and gentlemen are standing and talking, conversing with each other, and you notice immediately that they are all wearing aprons with rounded corners, embroidered with a square and compasses. And as you look around, you begin to make out words that they are saying: Kabbalah, Rosy Cross, Egypt. In the middle of the room is a large table. On it are 3 candlesticks and a large bowl of punch. A group of men are sitting there smoking long, thin pipes. One of them refers to another as Master Cagliostro. Before you get a chance to speak to the gentleman, however, a man approaches you from behind, touches you on your arm, and leads you to a door which leads to a small room and ushers you inside. Inside the room there is only a chair and a table, upon which there is a candle and a painting or tracing board and some other objects. As he closes the door, you sit in near darkness, taking a seat at the table, and ponder the painting. You recognize that it is a Masonic tracing board, but you do not recognize the symbols on it. The painting depicts an elderly man representing time, and he stands before a pyramid. On the painting, to the left of the pyramid, is a horn of plenty, winding like a ram's horn, with fruit spilling out of it. To the right is depicted some chains and architectural tools, a square, a compasses, a ruler, and so on. As you sit now and contemplate the tracing board and its symbols, you can hear the sounds of people making announcements, although you do not make out what they are saying. And you can hear the sound of loud knocking, knock, knock, knock. Then that repeated 3 times more. You try not to pay too much attention to the sounds. Instead, you just focus on the tracing board with its pyramid, an elderly man representing time, the horn of plenty, and the architectural tools. And it may seem as if a long time has passed in this little room, the chamber of reflection. It may seem as if a long time has passed, as if you have been waiting perhaps an hour or even more. Although you may not have noticed, but at the other side of the room is another door. And suddenly it opens quietly, and a gentleman appears. He beckons you to him and leads you through this inner door into a large, dimly lit room There is a smell of incense, like spices. You can take your time to breathe in the incense. The air seems thick with the smell of spice. Just take your time to breathe in and appreciate that scent. And as you do, you may begin to see that there are a lot of people seated around the walls, facing towards the center. They are all neatly dressed in aprons and ceremonial collars. Some of them smile and nod politely as you look at them, as if in recognition. In the east of the room, the master of the lodge is seated on a large throne, which itself rests atop 3 steps, and above him, suspended from the ceiling, is a large gold triangle emitting large gold rays of light. And either side of the throne, hung on the wall behind the master, are 2 banners, one embroidered with the sun and the other with the moon. And before the master is an altar, and on it is a candlestick and an open book. As you take in the sights around you, the brother that approached you in the chamber of reflection takes you gently by the arm and leads you to the master in the east. As you approach the east, you keep your eyes fixed on the master of the lodge. He stands and, smiling, reaches out his hand to take yours as you come nearer and nearer, nearer and nearer. In a second, you will be standing before the master of the lodge, and you take his hand in yours and clasp it firmly. And the master of the lodge welcomes you to his lodge of Egyptian masonry. And smiling, he leads you to the altar, and you follow him. Before it, you notice now, is another tracing board. And the master takes the candlestick from the altar and illuminates it with the flame. On it are depicted several symbols. In the center are 7 steps leading to a door. On the steps is painted a master mason, and he is pointing a sword towards a sleeping male figure with a winged helmet and holding in his right hand a wand with 2 snakes wrapped around it. This is the god Mercury, a symbol of the alchemical transformation. And on the tracing board, you also see the words Great Secret. You stand there for a moment, examining the tracing board, as the master of the lodge illuminates it with the candle flame. Just contemplate those symbols, the tracing board that is standing before you against the altar. And now the master gestures for you to take a seat. And as you look around, you notice that in the west is another throne, though it is empty. You walk through the room and sit down on the throne. Seated on the throne now, you look around the room at the people, the altar, the master, the golden triangle above his head, and at the tracing board before the altar. Now it is time to return to your everyday life. You become more and more conscious of sitting in the throne. You close your eyes and allow the scene of the lodge to fade away. The scene fades away. The scene fades away. The scene fades away. Now you become more and more conscious of being back in your everyday life, perhaps sitting in your chair or laying in your bed. Just become conscious of what you are resting against. Perhaps your arms are laying on the bed or the chair. Be conscious of the air that you're breathing and of your breathing. Now you can become conscious of the room around you, and on the count of 3, you are fully awake and open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. And now you can stretch. Just stretch out. Begin to wake up fully, and you can just stay seated or laying there for a moment and just stretch and bring yourselves back fully to the ordinary and everyday world that you normally inhabit. Thank you for coming to the 18th century and visiting the Egyptian Rite Lodge with us. And I hope you had a good trip. Welcome back to the world.
This has been the Craftsmen Online Podcast. Again, I want to thank our special guest, Brother Angel Millar. Please look for the link to his website, angelmillar.com, as well as links to his past episodes on our podcast and the show links for this episode. If you've enjoyed this episode and you want to hear more, just tell Siri or Alexa to play the Craftsmen Online Podcast. We're available on all streaming platforms with new episodes every Monday morning. Until next time, let peace and harmony prevail.